Late evenings settled over the city like a tired sigh, the kind of gritty night when neon lights flicker with fatigue and the streets whisper stories nobody wants to claim, and inside the small corner convenience store on 8th Street, the new cashier, Aisha, pushed the last crate of canned goods behind the counter, trying to ignore the aching throb in her feet and the quiet nerves that always spiked around closing time, because even though she had only worked here for 2 weeks, she already understood one thing clearly: this block had rules, unspoken, invisible, and sharp enough to cut you if you didn't know where to step. She kept her head down, her hijab pinned neatly, her expression calm, hoping that tonight would pass like any other, quick, quiet, uneventful. But the universe had other plans, because the front door slammed open with the rude crash of trouble arriving early, and 3 boys swaggered inside, loud, reckless, and scanning the shop with the careless entitlement of kids who believed the world owed them everything. Their leader, a tall thin guy with a chain jangling on his neck, smirked when he spotted her, nudging his friends as they approached the counter, and immediately Aisha felt that familiar tightening in her stomach, the one she prayed she wouldn't experience again. But bullies smelled vulnerability like wolves sniffing blood, and the moment they stood in front of her, she knew the shift had just turned dangerous. Not surprising, because every few nights some group wandered in after hours, trying to stir chaos, but tonight felt heavier, darker, because these weren't random kids. These were the type who wanted a reaction, who wanted power, who wanted to push someone simply because they could. And Aisha forced a polite smile, asking softly if they needed help, but her voice barely left her mouth before the chain-wearing boy slapped a pack of gum on the counter and said, "Yeah, you can help by smiling properly, like a good little cashier." And his friends broke into laughter, leaning around her workspace, trying to loom over her, trying to crack her calm exterior, trying to see if she would break. She kept steady, scanning the gum with quiet firmness, refusing to feed their ego, but that only agitated them more. And one boy reached across, tapping the name tag on her chest, mocking her pronunciation, asking if her parents bought the job for her, calling her discount girl, and even though her hands trembled slightly, she didn't react. She didn't flinch, because while she wasn't physically powerful, she carried something no one in this store knew, something that if revealed would change the entire tone of this night. Her brother, Zain, was the right hand of the most feared street crew in the district, the ones who ran surveillance on the block, settled disputes before they became wars, and kept every shop under an unofficial but ironclad protection. The problem was, Aisha didn't want to use that power, didn't want to lean on her brother's shadow, didn't want the world to see her as the gang leader's sister, because she wanted a normal job, a normal life, something simple, something peaceful. And the boys had no clue that each second they pushed her, they were walking closer to a line that would not bend, would not forgive, and definitely would not let them walk away the same. The leader grabbed the scanning device from her hand, pretending to help, waving it around like a toy, beeping randomly at items on the counter, sending her register into error mode, and she reached out hesitantly to retrieve it, speaking gently, "Please, it's closing time, I just need to finish." But he snatched his hand away, twisting his grin into something uglier, more taunting, as he said, "What are you gonna do? Cry? Call the manager? Call your mommy." And his friends echoed him like parrots, bumping into shelves, knocking items over on purpose, making a mess she'd have to clean. And as humiliation pressed on her chest, Aisha swallowed back tears, not because she was scared, but because she had promised herself she would never drag her brother's world into hers again. But fate is cruel, and right when the leader leaned in closer, invading her space, tapping her chin with his finger, laughing when she flinched, a deep voice thundered from the doorway, not loud in volume, but loud in presence, the kind of voice that doesn't need to shout to command a room. And the moment she heard it, relief washed through her bones like warm light. "Is there a problem here?" And the entire store froze, the boys turning around slowly, their smirks fading the instant they saw who was standing there. Zain, tall, broad-shouldered, tattoos crawling up his arms like warnings carved in ink, dressed in a plain hoodie but carrying an aura that needed no announcement. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him as if sealing their fate, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the scene, his sister's trembling hands, the scattered products on the floor, the register flashing in error, and the boys blocking her in like predators circling prey. And a calm, unsettling smile touched his lips as he said, "You touched my sister," which sent a ripple of fear across the room, because Zain didn't raise his voice, didn't flex, didn't threaten, he just asked, and even that was enough to make the boldest bully feel small. The leader stuttered immediately, "We were just joking, man." But Zain stepped forward slowly, deliberately, his presence swallowing the space, each step heavier than the last, and the boys instinctively backed up until their shoulders hit a shelf, like cornered animals realizing too late that the forest had predators bigger than them. Aisha tried to speak, whispering, "Zain, don't please," but he raised a hand gently. Not to silence her, but to reassure her, his expression softening for a brief second, the protective warmth of an older brother shining through, before turning ice cold again as he faced the bullies. "You came to this store on this block at this hour, and you thought you could lay hands on the girl who owns half the hearts in my crew," he said, and the leader swallowed hard, glancing between his friends as if searching for an escape that didn't exist, because everyone knew Zain's crew controlled the streets, not with reckless violence, but with strict order, keeping crime down, protecting locals, and making it very clear which lines were never to be crossed. And these idiots had crossed the brightest line of all. Zain moved closer, his shadow falling over the leader, his voice dropping to a dangerously calm whisper, "Pick up every item you knocked over. Fix the shelf. Apologize. And pray that when you step outside, my boys aren't waiting to teach you what happens when you disrespect family. And the transformation was instant. The bullies scrambled desperately, tripping over each other as they picked up spilled snacks and reorganized shelves, apologizing over and over, their voices shaking, their bravado gone, replaced by pure regret, while Aisha watched in stunned silence, her heart caught between gratitude and embarrassment. Within minutes, the store looked cleaner than when they arrived, and once finished, they tried to rush past Zayn toward the exit, but he stopped them with a slight tilt of his head, saying, "You look at her and apologize properly," and they turned around, bowing their heads, mumbling apologies to Aisha with genuine fear trembling through every word before rushing out like terrified animals released from a cage. When the door finally swung shut behind them, the store fell quiet, and Aisha let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding, whispering, "I didn't want you to get involved," and Zayn walked behind the counter, gently taking the scanner from her shaking hands, placing it back into its cradle, and saying softly, "I know. But you don't have to fight alone. Not while I'm breathing," and his words, simple yet heavy with love, made tears slip down her cheeks, not from fear, but from relief, from safety, from the reminder that even in a harsh world, family is armor. Zayn wiped her tears with a gentle thumb, saying, "Come on. Let's close up. And after this, you're getting dinner, my treat," and she smiled for the first time that night, her heart lighter, her spirit stronger, and as they turned off the store lights together, stepping out onto the quiet street, the dim glow of the block felt warmer, safer, because everyone who saw them knew, this was their territory, and no one messed with Zayn's family and walked away unchanged. The city breathed in the night air, as if relieved the storm had passed, and while Aisha locked the store door, she whispered a silent prayer of gratitude, not for power, not for fear, but for the protection of someone who would move worlds to keep her safe. And as they walked away, the camera would pull back slowly, the streetlights flickering like witnesses to a story worth hearing, and the narrator's voice would rise gently, inviting viewers to lean in closer before saying, "If you enjoyed this powerful story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because more breathtaking stories are coming, and you don't want to miss what happens next."